Well, as much as Ryan Day and Ohio State potentially screwed themselves, Miami may have helped them out because of the comeback from Syracuse. Literally down 21-0. Cuse comes back. They win the football game. And that may have been the saving grace right now for Ohio State. It might be the saving grace because they've got a very close win over Penn State, because they've got the win over Indiana, but they've also got the loss to Oregon. They have a loss to Michigan. Doesn't look good for them. Their schedule outside of the conference really wasn't that great. And now Miami isn't even going to be in the conference championship game. And by the way, for everybody talking about conference championship games, it's really astounding to me because technically the committee, by the way the rules are written, are not supposed to use the conference championship game as a tiebreaker and or deciding factor when they are ranking these teams. So really the conference championship game is technically a moot point. And basically the way that everybody was ranked is supposed to be where they are and not change. Now, here's the other variable here. And that is, while Miami lost, they've only got 2 losses so far this season. Ohio State, while they lost, they've only got 2 losses so far this season. But Alabama did beat Auburn. Wasn't the greatest win, but they did beat Auburn. And Alabama was hanging around that 13 spot. So now, where do we go from here? Don't put it above the committee to allow a 3-loss SEC team in. And depending on what's going to happen a little bit later on with Texas and Texas A&M, we don't really know. What we do know is this. You can literally split hairs any way you want to. You can justify it any way that you want to. But this is the overall reason why I have a problem with having a vote-in, which makes it an invitational versus a true playoff. What's a true playoff to you? I keep getting asked that question, and I've said over and over again, it's with rules instead of voting. In order to get into the Big Ten championship game, there are rules that teams had to abide by. In order to get into the SEC title game, there are rules that teams have to abide by. The AAC, the ACC, the Conference USA, et cetera, et cetera. There are rules that are written that you have to abide by. So, we need to have a certain set of written rules. Because at the end of the day, if Vanderbilt plays Alabama 99 out of 100 times, you are going to take Vanderbilt to win that football game. But they beat Alabama this season. And that was after they beat a very mediocre Virginia Tech team, but also lost to a horrendous Georgia State team. Now, I know that somebody's going to go, well, Tennessee didn't play them really all that good. Tennessee ended up pulling away. Notre Dame pulled away. This is going to get tricky because pretty much where everything is at this weekend could still potentially change dramatically come Tuesday night. Conference championship weekend basically doesn't mean anything anymore. These rankings essentially don't mean anything anymore. All it is a showcase really to the rest of the viewers in America about who these teams really are, and that's pretty much it. And as far as Ryan Day and Ohio State goes, look, I've said repeatedly over and over again that losing to Michigan is a fireable offense. John Cooper was 111-43 at his time at Ohio State. But he was 3-8 in bowl games, and he was 2-10-1 against Michigan. And in 94, 95, and 96, Ohio State was undefeated going into those football games, and they lost, basically ruining their chance to win a national championship. Now, because of the playoff system, they still might be able to slide by, but here's the thing, though. He's 2-4 in bowl games overall. He's 1-3 in the college football playoff. I mean, where do you go from here? Could you do worse than Ryan Day? Sure. Could you potentially do better? I'd be willing to bet the farm yes. Tressel did phenomenal with Ohio State, and he is remembered because of how good he was against Michigan and the fact that he got his team a national championship. Despite how things ended, that's what he's remembered for. And mind you, Urban Meyer is loved because not only was he great against Michigan, but he convinced a bunch of guys who couldn't play in a bowl game, much less a national championship, to go undefeated. And then, of course, he ended up winning a national championship. When it matters the most, Ryan Day has a losing record. He's got a losing record in bowl games. He's got a losing record in the college football playoff. He's got a losing record against Michigan. It's really difficult to turn that around. And despite how you feel about the Oregon game at the beginning of this season, the reality is he got out-coached. It might have been minute. It might have been a bull play, but it is what it is. Somebody knew the rules that somebody else didn't. They were prepared for that situation, and they acted accordingly. And let's be honest about Ryan Day. He is a bully that cannot stand getting bullied. Oh, he loves to run his mouth to a damn near 90-year-old man in Lee Corso. Or Lou Holtz, pardon me. Where's Lou Holtz? I want to know, where's Lou Holtz? What he said about our team, I cannot believe. It's a tough team right here. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to see Lou Holtz in the yard, Brody? You're playing against a Lou Holtz coach football team at any given moment. And speaking of Lou Holtz, South Carolina, they just beat Clemson. Man, I'm telling you what, Ryan Day may have been bailed out this weekend. He may have been bailed out by Miami. He may have been bailed out by Clemson. He may have been, I'm telling you what, man. Notre Dame didn't play their best against USC, but they won. Indiana, depending on how it goes, the Penn State win is probably going to be just enough. But even then, once he gets there, do you really believe that Ohio State is going to win at least one game in the college football playoff? Come December, if he's still the head football coach of this football team when Ohio State season is over, I will be shocked. Because regardless of anything, the Nebraska game, not a good look for him this year. They blew out Colorado and damn near beat Ohio State, and Nebraska's not even that great. And speaking of Colorado, don't pretend like they're still not in the mix. Any Big 12 team, don't pretend like they're still not in the mix. There was a time when you could have logically said maybe a Big 12 team doesn't get in. Because again, remember, the rule is the top 5 highest ranked conference champion. They automatically get in. Tulane was creeping around, UNLV, Boise State, obviously. But now you have this whole mess, right? Tuesday night's going to be really interesting. I'm going to tell you that much. And the fact that Alabama was creeping around that 13 spot, man, I'm telling you, I will not be surprised to see Ohio State at 11 or 12 and Alabama somehow move up. They'll figure it out. They'll find a way. They will get a 3-loss SEC team in there if need be. They're not going to have any bones about it. Depending on what goes on with Texas and Texas A&M, Texas loses that game, Alabama for sure is moving up. They're not worried about who's got more losses. They're worried about who their losses are against and how they look in their wins. That's what they are deciding on. It's pretty clear. And Ohio State, basically this year, Oregon, okay, 0-1. Penn State, 1-1. Michigan, 1-2. The big games, losing record. And despite the fact that the Big Ten led the NCAA with the most amount of teams who didn't play an FCS opponent, it could still vote well against them for the fact of You lost the big games and you lost to a mediocre football team. And the committee might look past that for Alabama, even though that win to Vanderbilt or that loss to Vanderbilt is horrible. Even though that loss to OU is horrible. It's going to get tough. But they are doing it to themselves. They are making the committee split hairs when if you just did your job and won, it wouldn't even matter. I mean, it's literally easier said than done. I get it. But to lose a game like that, Clemson probably helped them out. That loss to South Carolina. At the end of the day, a lot of teams did what they were supposed to do, but a lot of teams really choked bad. Really choked bad. If you ask me, they not only need Indiana to lose to Purdue by some sort of miracle, but they also need Texas A&M to beat Texas if they are going to have any shot whatsoever. Specifically Texas, because if Indiana loses, that really honestly doesn't help their case. But they need a loss to give Indiana 2 losses, one against Ohio State and then another one against Purdue, which is not going to hold water with anybody and go, okay, you had your shot and you blew it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm Drew Duncan, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram's all at Drew Duncan Radio. Everybody stay safe, take care of yourselves, have a wonderful rest of your night and or day.